What years did Jamestown areas experience droughts? How do we know this?
In my opinion, I think that they experienced drought from about 1565 to 1575, and the biggest drought was between 1605 to 1615.
I agree with Jared on that. He stated his facts really well and used the documents.
I agree with Jared on that. I agree with Jared on that. He used text evidence from the document to support his answer.
I agree with Jared because he used the documents.
Oh, next question. So now we are doing compare the causes of death in year 1607 to 1609 through 1610. Did you notice any similarities, any major differences? Okay. Luis.
What?
Answer.
Oh.
What was the causes of death in year 1607?
May you please restate the question?
Compare the causes of death in 1607 to 1609 through 1610. Do you notice any similarities, any major differences?
Yes, I noticed some similarities. In 1607, 2 of the colonists died from the first Indian attack, and still in 1607, 3 more died from Indian ambushes. Then in 1609, the Indians kill half near of the colonists. And with the sicknesses, in 1607, sicknesses kills half the colonists, and in 1608, many were dead from the sickness. Then 1609 through 1610, 110 colonists died from famine.
I agree with Caleb on that. And also in 1607, sicknesses killed in the summer. Sicknesses killed half of the colonists, and then in 1608, many died from being sick. And then same within the summer of 1609 through 1610, the 100 at Jamestown sickened, and half of the number died.
I agree because in 1607 it did say 2 die in first Indian attack of Fort James, and then it said at least 3 more die in Indian ambushes. And in 1609 and 1610 it said of 120 men, the Indians killed near half. And then it also said 33 were slain, and it did say that they were sick in 1607 and half were killed, and in 1608 it said many dead, some sick, and 18 were killed.
I agree with Caleb because in 1607 through 1608, there was about 78 sickness and 8 killed by Indians.
I don't know. Next question. Source of Virginia Adventure by Alfred A. Knopf. What textual evidence shows that the English forced the Indians to trade for grain? Explain in your own words how the English acquired the grain. Caleb.
Can you repeat that again?
Yes, I can. What textual evidence shows that the English forced the Indians to trade for grain? Explain in your own words how the English acquired the grain. Caleb.
Well, Francis West and 36 men sailed up the Chesapeake Bay, and then he told the guys if they didn't trade for grain that they would die.
I agree with Riley because it said though West was able to load his ship with grain, the success involved some harsh and cruel dealing by cutting off 2 of the soldier's head and other extremities. And that proves that he killed 2 Indians to make them trade grain.
Thank you, Caleb. Louise?
I agree with Jared because in the document it says that they chopped off 2 people's heads.
I agree with you, Louise, that they did chop off 2 Indians' heads and pretty much almost decapitated. Well, not decapitated, but mutilated the whole entire body.
Great.
Next question.
We have got
Source: Jamestown Environment.
using the document. What can you infer about the health of settlers in Jamestown? Use evidence from the text. Mr. Jared.
May you repeat the question?
Wait. Okay. So, using the document, what can you infer about the health of settlers in Jamestown? I can infer that Jamestown environment. Which one was that? Yeah. So I think that the environment of Jamestown was the health of Jamestown. Settlers in Jamestown. They were vulnerable to drought, saltwater intrusion, so they were thirsty and they were running out of water.
I agree with you on that, but their health, I would like to add, their health wasn't very good because they were using water that was out of the river that had salt in it, and they were also eating fish, and they only had that in the early summer.
I agree with Rowland because in the text it says, because the Dustman River and creeks became brackish, water levels rose, and so brackish means dirty, so they were drinking dirty water.
I agree because it did say that the water was brackish because the water levels rose, and a reliable source of fresh water would have been scarce, so they were suffering from lack of water. And it said that it was not situated at a point of great natural food abundance, especially relative to other locations very close by. Fish are present in local streams, but only in the spring and early summer, and are they in the press of abundance, so it does prove that they were lack of water and food.
I agree with you, Jared, that they had saltwater intrusion and died and disease in the early years, and the water was where filth introduced into the river tended to fester rather than flush away.
Okay.
Next question.
Next question. Share one of your observations you made in your annotations that others may have not have noticed. Others may have not have noticed that
There's 110 in 1607 and 120 in 1608 that had been that had arrived in May.
I would like to add that there were 47 gentlemen who didn't know the work, and very, very few people who did know how to work, which left them very.
Also, there was no females in the colony.
Yes.
Yeah, I put down that I wondered why did they have tobacco pipe makers if they didn't have tobacco. So I was thinking that they had to send a letter back to get, so they would, because tobacco, they didn't know it until they went to America. And I wondered why they didn't have any gunsmiths, because they could die because they didn't have enough guns.
For the gentleman, why did the numbers drop so low over just the year? Was it because they all just died?
Yeah. Okay, everyone answer that question. Next question. Background essay. According to this essay, why did the English settle along the Jamestown River in 1607? Who helped fund the Jamestown River? According to the essay, the English settled along the Jamestown River to, let's see, they wanted to look for gold, and they wanted to find, some wanted to teach the ways of Jesus Christ and find a hidden route to China, or find even a hidden route to China.
I would like to add to that. They were smart to move down to the river because they could use the rivers for water and get fish out of there.
Probably make more sense. Okay, Caleb?
I'd like to add to that they moved down there for freshwater and streams and fairy meadows.
That's what you just said. Okay, Jared, do you have anything to add?
In my opinion, I think that they also settled on the James River that far because of the Spanish, and they were afraid they were going to get attacked, and they were trying to hide, so the Spanish couldn't see them.
I agree with Jared because in the document it says true they were dangerous. A Spanish warship or two would be a surprise.
Okay, we are on to the next question now. Lost point. What years did Jamestown areas experience droughts? Why do we know this? Or how do we know this? We know this because there were, they studied rainfall amounts by examining tree ring patterns in old cypress tree growing near Jamestown. Every year, a growth ring inside the trunk of a tree, they measure the growth ring inside of the tree. You did? Okay, well.
But we have to go back to the beginning and talk about why did the question about why so many people died.
Oh, so many. You can answer.
So many people died in Jamestown because they were getting sick and they were killed by the Indians.
And most colonists weren't prepared.
I like to add to that because of the diseases. There was a lot of diseases. That's why they died.
I'd like to add to that they didn't have very much food.
Yeah, not enough food, and there were.
And if they did have food, I would like. Sorry for interrupting, but I would like to add to that. If they ate the fish from the rivers, the fish would have salt on them, like the water that was in the rivers, so it could have killed them.
I agree that hunger was a big problem and why colonists died. I also think it was sickness in Indians because in document E, it proved that many died from sickness, over 100 people, and many died from Indian attacks and ambushes.
I would like to add that they also had harsh winters, and they couldn't stay as warm as they normally could.
Indians also killed a large amount. The first arrival, two died from the first Indian attacks on Fort James, and 3 more died from Indian ambushes. And in 1608, none died from Indians, and then in 1609 through 1610, near half of the people are killed from Indian attacks. And then near the end, 50 kill Powhatan, or 50 more get killed.
I agree with you on that. Is that all we have?
Yeah.